How I Met Your Mother is full of moments where Ted Mosby gets a clear, undeniable warning about a relationship and just keeds going. From telling Robin he loves her on their very first date to dating a woman who literally stalked him for a year and a half, I'll be going over every red flag Ted Mosby ignored in How I Met Your Mother, starting with one of the worst. So here's the thing about Ted Mosby that most people don't realize until they rewatch the show. His biggest red flag isn't a single moment. It's not one bad decision or one terrible girlfriend. It's a behavior so consistent, so predictable, that his friends eventually name it after him. They call it the Mosby. And if you know the show, you already know what it means. It's when you tell someone you love them way, way too soon. And too soon in Ted's case means the literal first date. Season 1, Episode 1. Ted meets Robin Scherbatsky. She's funny, she's beautiful, and Ted is so overwhelmed by the fact that his best friend Marshall just got engaged to Lily that his brain short-circuits into I need to find the one immediately mode. So what does Ted do on their very first date? He steals a blue French horn off a restaurant wall, shows up at her door, and tells her he loves her.
I think I'm in love with you.
What? What?
First date. That's it. That's the entire foundation of what becomes 9 seasons of romantic chaos. And it happens before the first episode is even over. Now, here's where it gets worse. In episode 2, Lily flat out tells Ted that Robin doesn't want anything serious. Robin herself says they should just be friends.
We could be friends.
And Ted's response to hearing all of this is to throw 3 separate parties back to back just to engineer another chance to hang out with her. 3 parties, after she told him she wasn't interested. Robin notices the pressure too, and she has to be the one to repeat that they should stay friends, because Ted has already decided that friends is a temporary stage he can power through if he tries hard enough. And this is still just season 1. By episode 4, Ted is already recycling old relationships. He recontacts Natalie, a woman he previously dumped by voicemail on her birthday. His friends think this is a terrible idea. Ted convinces Natalie to give him another shot anyway, then realizes again that he doesn't love her, and breaks up with her on her birthday a second time. The same birthday, the same woman, the same outcome. And the only thing Ted learned between the 2 breakups was how to be more persuasive about getting another chance he didn't deserve. By episode 6, he's waiting at the same Halloween party every single year for a woman he met once in 2001, building an entire romantic destiny around a costume and a conversation he barely remembers. By episode 7, he's stealing information from a matchmaking service because his highest percentage match is already engaged, booking a fake dermatology appointment to meet her, and telling her he'll be available whenever her current situation changes. The pattern is already locked in. Ted doesn't hear no as an answer, he hears it as a timing issue. And that exact pattern is what makes Victoria such a tragedy. Because Victoria is genuinely great for Ted. They meet at a wedding, they have this amazing connection, and they even agree to keep it as a single perfect night without phone numbers or last names. Ted tracks her down at her bakery the next day anyway. Victoria happens to be glad he did, so the show plays it as romantic. But it's also the first time Ted takes a boundary someone explicitly set and treats it like a romantic obstacle course. Once they're actually dating, things go well until Victoria gets a baking fellowship in Germany. Both of them agree, out loud, that long-distance relationships probably won't work. Future Ted jumps in from 2030 to tell us directly that they don't. And Ted and Victoria look at all of that information and decide to try it anyway. Which, sure, people make that optimistic call all the time. But what happens next is the part Ted can't blame on optimism. He neglects the relationship. He falls asleep during calls. He lies about appreciating the care packages Victoria sends him. Victoria tells him they need to talk, and Ted can feel the breakup coming. Then Robin invites him over after 2 a.m. And Ted knows exactly what a 2 a.m. invitation means. Marshall warns him. Lily warns him. Future Ted literally narrates the words, "Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. as one of his life rules.
Nothing good ever
happens after 2 a.m. Go home. It's too late for...
Ted goes to Robin's apartment anyway, tells Robin that he and Victoria have already broken up, which is a complete lie, and kisses her. Victoria calls during the kiss and finds out the truth.
We broke up.
What?
Yeah, she finally called. We talked.
Future Ted, sitting 25 years in the future with full knowledge of how everything plays out, specifically calls this one of his stupidest decisions.
The stupidest thing I've ever done. In one night, I managed to hurt 2 people I cared about.
And then, just one episode before the finale, Ted stands up an extremely compatible match that Love Solutions found for him because he realizes he still wants Robin. Marshall warns him. Future Ted frames it as a choice Ted knowingly makes, not a risk he fails to see. Then in the season 1 finale, Ted goes after Robin again, gets a definitive rejection, and responds by performing a literal rain dance on the roof of his apartment building until she agrees to date him. That's not Ted being a hopeless romantic. That's Ted choosing the fantasy over reality and then using sheer volume of effort to override the word no. But here's the thing that should scare you about Ted Mosby. These season 1 mistakes, the premature love declarations, the lies, the refusal to stop, those are the adorable red flags. Those are the ones the show plays for laughs. Because when Ted meets Stella Zinman, the pattern stops being funny and starts becoming genuinely hard to watch. And the reason it's hard to watch is because Stella doesn't just hint that Ted should back off. She tells him directly, repeatedly, in plain language, and Ted treats every single refusal like a puzzle with a loophole he hasn't cracked yet. Stella is a dermatologist. She's a single mom raising her daughter Lucy. She's overworked, she's exhausted, and she does not have time for Ted Mosby. She tells him no because he's her patient. She tells him no because she has a daughter and can't waste time on casual dating. She tells him no because her schedule literally does not allow for a relationship. These are not subtle signals. These are complete sentences spoken out loud by an adult woman who means what she's saying. And Ted's response is to keep showing up, keep reframing each excuse as a specific logistical problem he can solve, and eventually convince her with a 2-minute date squeezed into her lunch break. The 2-minute date is charming. The show wants you to think it's charming, but what it actually proves is that Ted has gotten incredibly good at finding the loophole in a no instead of hearing the no itself. And the gang even tries to warn him before things escalate. Barney lays out the entire Platinum Rule, which predicts a specific sequence of escalating disaster whenever you date someone you have to keep seeing professionally. Ted acknowledges the odds of a bad ending and dates Stella anyway. Once they're together, the problems multiply fast. Stella reveals that she's been looking for reasons to pull back because the relationship is moving too fast. And then Ted becomes the one who panics. Stella invites him to her sister's wedding 6 months away, and Ted decides they're moving at different speeds and breaks up with her over it. He gets into a car accident the same day, realizes he wants Stella back, and proposes to her at Kitty Funland using a stuffed kangaroo from a claw machine because he doesn't even have a ring. He goes from being unable to commit to a wedding 6 months out to proposing marriage in the span of 1 episode. So Ted is now engaged immediately after he was the one who panicked over attending a wedding 6 months in the future. And once the engagement is official, the problems that should have been solved before a proposal start revealing themselves. Ted doesn't know Stella's hobbies, her favorite color, her eye color, or the fact that she has a severe peanut allergy. He secretly tests whether she likes Star Wars, and she secretly pretends she does because she's afraid her real answer would end the engagement. They haven't discussed where they're going to live. Ted assumes New York, Stella assumes New Jersey. Neither one has mentioned this to the other. His friends are so worried that they stage an actual intervention about the engagement being rushed. And then comes Tony. Tony Graffanello is Stella's ex and Lucy's father. Stella tells Ted very clearly and very forcefully that she does not want Tony at the wedding. And Ted, the guy who is about to get left at an altar, invites Tony personally.
No, Tony is the last person I want at our wedding, okay?
Future Ted tells us the rule afterward. Don't invite an ex to your wedding, but the rule existed before the wedding too, Stella told him. Stella knew exactly what would happen if Tony showed up, because she knew she still had feelings for him.
Don't ever invite an ex to your wedding. If someone had given me that advice, well, it would have changed everything.
Come on!
Tony shows up. Stella leaves with Tony. Ted is standing alone at the altar. But the detail that really puts this whole disaster into perspective comes 1 episode later. Ted finds out that Stella moved to New York for Tony. The same woman who told Ted that moving to Manhattan was impossible, that her whole life was in New Jersey, that she couldn't uproot Lucy, moved to Manhattan the moment Tony asked.
And then she moves into the city with Tony? Son of a bitch!
Which means the geography was never really the problem. The problem was that Stella never felt strongly enough about Ted to rearrange her life for him. And every warning sign along the way was telling him exactly that. And he kept finding clever little workarounds instead of listening. Now, you'd think getting abandoned at the altar would be the thing that finally changes Ted. You'd think that after watching your fiancé walk out of your own wedding for her ex because you invited him against her explicit wishes, You'd develop some kind of internal alarm system for when you're ignoring a woman's clearly stated boundaries.
Ted, we talked about this. No exes at our wedding. Why would you do this?
But what Ted does after Stella is somehow worse than anything he did with Stella. Because his next several significant relationships include a serial cheater, a woman whose entire campaign threatens his career, and a stalker. And in all three cases, Ted has the red flags in his hands before he starts the relationship. Karen is Ted's recurring girlfriend from high school and college, and she has already cheated on him multiple times by the time she reappears in season 4. When they reconnect, Ted discovers that he's the other man, the person Karen is currently cheating on her boyfriend with. And Ted takes her back anyway. The familiarity and the nostalgia from their shared past override the fact that infidelity is the one consistent feature of their entire relationship. The only reason they finally end is because Karen demands that Ted stop being friends with Lily. And that's the one price Ted won't pay, not the cheating. The cheating he could live with. It took threatening his friendship with Lily to make him walk away from a woman whose entire relationship history with him was built on betrayal. Then there's Zoe Pearson, and Zoe might be the single most baffling relationship Ted ever enters, because Zoe isn't just a bad match. She's Ted's literal opponent. She is married to the captain when Ted first meets her. She is actively campaigning to save the Arcadian, the old hotel that Ted's entire career project at GNB is designed to demolish and replace. Across her first few appearances, Zoe infiltrates Ted's college class, lies to the captain about spending time with Ted, and secretly records Ted criticizing GNB so she can potentially use it against him later. Ted and Zoe have opposing professional goals that cannot both succeed. She's married, and she's already collected ammunition against him before they ever go on a date. Ted dates her anyway once her divorce from the captain goes through, because their arguments feel exciting and the chemistry is intense. But even the way the romance starts is a red flag. Before the divorce, while Zoe is still married, there's a scene where both of them admit they shouldn't be spending time alone together if romantic feelings are developing. They acknowledge the problem out loud and then do absolutely nothing about it. Zoe lies to the captain about seeing Ted. The captain is visibly jealous. And Ted keeps showing up, keeps pretending this is just a friendship, and keeps letting the emotional affair build until the divorce makes it technically acceptable to call it dating. And once they're officially together, the Arcadian conflict doesn't disappear. It just moves indoors. They fight constantly. The entire friend group is exhausted by the arguing. Ted tells Zoe that her obsession with the building is ruining her life, and then turns around and joins her crusade after hearing her personal backstory. He experiences what future Ted calls graduation goggles, that dangerous feeling where you romanticize something right before it ends, and uses it as a reason to stay instead of recognizing it as his brain trying to soften the impact of what he already knows. Eventually, Zoe uses the secret recording at the Arcadian hearing, a recording she made before they were even dating and later promised Ted she had erased. Ted finally chooses his career over the relationship. They break up. And when Zoe reaches out to try again, Ted buys an orchid and heads to meet her at the cafe where they had their first date. And Barney and Robin have to physically intercept him to keep him from going back. Future Ted later says that a supportive partner is better than one who turns everything into a fight, which is great wisdom that he only managed to articulate years after completely ignoring it in real time. And then there's Jeanette Peterson. And Jeanette is the one that changes everything, because Jeanette isn't just a bad girlfriend, she's a mirror. Jeanette is an NYPD lieutenant who engineers a fire alarm to create a meet cute with Ted. She follows him around the city, buys the same book he buys moments after he buys it, and eventually admits that she has been tracking and following him for approximately a year and a half. Ted's friends hear this and immediately call it what it is. Stalking. The whole group sees it clearly, and Ted looks at the same information and decides it's romantic. He uses the show's own recurring question, the idea that there's a thin line between romantic and creepy, and he picks the romantic side, because when Ted orchestrates elaborate schemes to win women over, he calls it destiny. So when someone does the exact same thing to him, he can't call it crazy without admitting that his own behavior has been crazy the entire time. Jeanette smashes his television. She searches through his email, she wrecks his apartment, and then she breaks up with Ted because she decides things are moving too fast. So now Ted has been stalked, surveilled, and had his home destroyed, and his response is to try to win her back because the physical relationship was exciting. They reconcile. And that's when Jeanette discovers Barney's second
intense, and it's all moving way too fast. Here's her key back.
Playbook and destroys it along with Ted's red cowboy boots, two of the most iconic recurring objects in the entire show. Gone because Ted couldn't walk away when every possible signal was telling him to. Future Ted calls Jeanette his absolute last horrible mistake before meeting Tracy, and Jeanette herself later tells Ted during the Locket search in season 9 that his continuing behavior around Robin is irrational. When the woman who stalked you for 18 months thinks your romantic patterns are unreasonable, that's not just a red flag, that's a flash.
Listen to me. You're being crazy.
I'm being crazy?
Yes. How?
Neon sign. And honestly, the fact that it took 9 women and 9 seasons for Ted to stop romanticizing someone who was literally destroying his belongings tells you everything about how deep this pattern goes. But here's the part most people miss, and it's the thing that turns this whole list from a collection of bad dating decisions into something that actually means something. Karen, Zoe, and Jeanette are not the real red flag. They're symptoms. The real red flag, the one that runs underneath every single relationship Ted has ever had, is Robin Scherbatsky. In season 7, Victoria comes back into Ted's life and tells him something that future Ted later confirms is completely correct. She says Robin is the reason all of Ted's relationships keep failing. Not because Robin is sabotaging them or doing anything wrong, but because Ted has never truly moved on from her. And every woman he dates is eventually competing with a version of Robin that lives in Ted's head. And the ghost always wins. The evidence for this is everywhere once you know to look for it. There's an entire episode in season 5 called Hooked, where Tiffany keeps telling Ted, not now, instead of giving him a real answer. And Ted waits around, interpreting each delay as progress.
I just can't be with you right now.
While the gang points out that she's keeping him on the... And the episode also reveals that Ted is doing the exact same not now thing to another woman named Henrietta. He can see the pattern when it's happening to him, but can't see it when he's doing it to someone else. Then in season 5, Ted dates his student Cindy and refuses to stop seeing her, even after she explains that dating her professor could endanger her scholarship and his job. He shows up at her place to convince her that destiny should override the university policy.
Policy about students and professors dating is really strict. I could lose my scholarship.
And here's the incredible part. Every single interest Ted cites as proof of their compatibility, the music, the books, the art, turns out to belong to Cindy's roommate. That roommate is Tracy McConnell, the mother. Ted is literally in the right apartment falling for the wrong woman, and he doesn't realize it because he's so busy projecting his fantasy onto whoever is standing in front of him. And in season 7, the Slutty Pumpkin Returns episode is maybe the purest example of Ted's sunk cost problem with women. He finally tracks down Naomi, the woman behind his decade-long Halloween fantasy, and they have absolutely zero chemistry. Both of them can feel it, but neither one is willing to admit that 10 years of anticipation should not obligate them to force a relationship. They try anyway, suffer through it, and only admit the mismatch after they've fully performed the fantasy they'd been building in their heads. So by the time Victoria drops her diagnosis in season 7, it's not exactly a surprise. The second Robin becomes single after ending things with Kevin, Ted immediately tells her he loves her and says he can get past the fact that she doesn't want children, which is the same incompatibility that already destroyed their first relationship in season 2. Robin responds by telling him straight to his face that she doesn't love him. Ted ends their age 40 pact. Robin moves out of his apartment, and for about 5 minutes, it looks like Ted might actually be done. But then Ted dates multiple women and keeps seeing Robin's face on each of them. In season 8, he privately tells Lily that he believes Robin should be with him, not Barney.
Robin shouldn't be with Barney, she should be with me.
When Victoria returns and gives him an ultimatum, she'll accept his proposal if he ends the friendship with Robin. Ted refuses. He chooses Robin's presence in his life over a genuine shot at marriage with a woman who is arguably his best match outside of Tracy. And Victoria's last words to him as she walks away are, "I really hope you get her someday." Even Victoria can see it. The Locket search in season 9 is probably the clearest proof of how deep the Robin attachment goes. Ted is trying to recover a locket Robin buried as a kid, and the search literally routes through Stella, Victoria, and Jeanette. His 3 biggest relationship failures all connected back to Robin like a chain of emotional evidence. Lily looks Ted in the eyes and tells him the locket is not an innocent wedding gift, and that part of him believes it could win Robin back.
That locket for Robin, you'll win her back.
Lily, I've let it go.
Barney confronts him about holding Robin's hand at the carousel. And in the Sunrise episode, Ted finally admits out loud what the entire show has been building toward. Robin has been his first choice the entire time. And this is where the show does something genuinely brilliant, even if a lot of fans are still arguing about whether it actually works. Because the show gives us a character who does the exact opposite of everything Ted has done for 9 seasons. Her name is Tracy McConnell, and she is the mother. And the way she handles relationships makes Ted look like a cautionary tale. Tracy is in a relationship with a perfectly fine guy named Louis. He proposes to her, and Tracy, standing in the exact moment where Ted would have said yes and figured out the problems later, recognizes that she can't honestly give Louis her whole heart. She still hasn't fully processed the death of her first love, Max. She has a conversation with Max's memory, confronts her grief, and makes peace with it. And instead of using the proposal to paper over that uncertainty the way Ted uses proposals and grand gestures and rain dances to avoid confronting incompatibility, Tracy says no. She walks away from a relationship that could have been comfortable because escalating it would have been emotionally dishonest. She refuses to treat another person's love as a tool for managing her own unresolved feelings. That is the exact decision Ted has refused to make for the entire series, and Ted only meets Tracy after he finally does something similar. Right before the wedding, Robin panics and offers to run away with Ted. She tells him he might be the person she should be with, and Ted, for the first time in 9 seasons of chasing this woman, says no. He tells her they aren't the same people they were. He says she loves Barney. He gives the recovered locket to Barney so Barney can be the one to return it to Robin, instead of using it as one last grand gesture for himself. That's the version of Ted who walks out of the Farhampton Inn and meets Tracy at the Farhampton train station. The biggest red flag Ted Mosby ever ignored wasn't Stella's repeated refusals, or Zoe's career sabotage, or Jeanette's stalking, or Karen's serial cheating. It was his own core belief that if he wanted something badly enough and chased it persistently enough, the incompatibility would eventually stop mattering. That belief was the engine behind every single bad relationship he ever had, and the only thing that ever turned it off was meeting someone who arrived through coincidence and timing instead of through force and persistence. And the wildest part? The finale. After Tracy dies in 2024, Ted shows up outside Robin's apartment in 2030 with the blue French horn. The same object, the same woman, the same gesture from the very first episode. His kids tell him that his entire 9-season story has really